Welcome to Ask Cadence, everybody. My name is Pete Wright. I'm sitting here at the round table again this week with Jay Christensen.
Good morning, Pete.
Good morning, Jay, and Scott Lissit.
Hi, Pete.
Today, Scott, we've got one of your problems that has just come up in a seminar for you, but it's one that comes up an awful lot. And as a matter of fact, it is an incredibly appropriate follow-on to last week's project problem that we were dealing with. This one, again, not a question so much as a statement that I think speaks for itself: scope creep.
Yes, and this is a problem that I have seen on almost every project that I've worked on or managed. And this happens where the project team begins to implement the project. They begin work on the project. And somebody, a key stakeholder or the project sponsor, or it could be even a team member, decides that there's this one really good feature that they would love to see added to the deliverables. Or it could be that they want to add another capability to the final product, and then another one, and then another one. And one of these by itself is not a cause for alarm, but it's the continual creeping of the scope. Let's add this, let's add another, that can put the project into crisis. And the key thing that the project manager needs to know in this case is that they are responsible for managing the cost, schedule, and performance of the project. And scope is a part of the performance.
And that's really what you mean by crisis, is any amount of creep that affects those elements.
Absolutely right.
All right.
So by adding 5 or 10 new features, you may then put the cost or schedule into jeopardy of the project. And there needs to be a very well-defined process that's in place from the planning phase for how the project manager will handle changes to cost, schedule, and performance. The project manager needs to get authorization to go beyond the original CSP boundary, as we call it.
Scott, if I could add here, many times where these items come from is that the team members are actually doing the work on the project. They may have an occasion to interface with the receiving stakeholder or customer, and during that conversation, the customer asks for additional features. The team member at that point commits to doing those features, and the scope control process that you just referred to is not followed. There is no visibility of this scope add until later when it causes problems in meeting schedule or integration with other elements of the project.
That's a great point, Jay, because if a team member experiences that, they need to inform the project manager right away. So the team needs to be aware that the project as a whole needs to stay within cost, schedule, and performance boundaries. And if they see anything that they know could potentially take them out, then they need to inform the project manager right away.
And kind of the danger here, too, is that if the team member or even the project manager is really adamant about managing scope, their customers or clients may feel like they're inflexible and not willing to adjust the outcomes of the project. So the team and the project manager need to use language that is positive, but at the same time implying a process will be followed to evaluate the impact to cost, schedule, performance that the requested change or feature would have.
There's a lot of project verbiage in there, Jen. I want to clarify a point that's sticking in my head. It's off of something that Scott said in his in the introduction to this problem, that when a team member finds a feature that would be, let's just say, what would be cool, and they want to take some initiative to add something to the project that is within their capability to do so. One of the things Scott said was, one of these is not a problem. It's when they stack up on one another that they become a problem. They become creep. Well, that implies that there's some sort of gray line that team members and project managers should be aware of not to cross. something small within a certain number of hours or something that directly does not affect cost, schedule, and performance? What is that gray line?
If I could help clarify a little bit, we talk about 3 levels of change on a project. And just briefly, a task level change is when there is an improvement to the performance of the task, but no impact to the cost or schedule for the task. This kind of a change is not that impactful and not necessarily a recipient of the project change process. A deliverable level change is similar. Improvement in the performance of the deliverable, but no impact to cost or schedule. The 3rd level change is when cost is going up, schedule is going out, or performance is going down. And those are the impactful changes that need attention.
And just to clarify, one very large change could impact something on the project level, and then it could be a problem. Where scope creep comes in is if you have many and continual changes to the project, and they then start to build up, and they have an effect larger than any one of them would have had. But I also want to make one other point, Pete, which is that some of these suggested changes to the project could be very valid. They don't have to be on the wish list. These could be very necessary changes that were not discovered until after the project began. And in that case, the project manager and the sponsor need to take these changes very seriously and decide whether you want to include them in the initial deliverable, or maybe you want to then plan for a sequential delivery where you can address some of the more significant changes, possibly in a follow-on.
Yes, and that is one way to achieve customer satisfaction, is to let the customer know that their requested change may not be applied in this project, but a subsequent project could include this requested change as a part of that project scope.
Excellent. So we're talking now about dot releases of projects. Project.1, Project.2.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
It could be.
Excellent. Jens, it's been a great discussion. I appreciate you sitting down yet again. Another week of Ask Cadence tackling the gorilla-sized project problems. We'll be back next week with another Ask Cadence.